Welcome to the Potion Podcast, your raw look at the hospitality industry, brought to you by SHC. What's happening, Post Shifters? Welcome back to the special World Class Canada Nationals 10th anniversary series. I hope you're enjoying the episodes. There's a lot of episodes. They're short, but there's a lot of episodes. Quick concession, covering all the competitors on the very first day, which we should have just finished, and then fast forwarding all the way through to the last competitors day, for the last competitions, where I got this opportunity to sit down with alumni and guest judges and just sort of have a chat and see how they feel about World Class, especially in the 10th anniversary of the Canadian Nationals. And I hope you're enjoying the episodes. And if you're enjoying the episodes, let me know. I'm having a blast again. I may keep doing this, so you never know. But as always, team, thanks for the support. Bye. Okay, Grant. So you came to Canada in 2010 for the Olympics.
Correct.
Did you have a plan to stay? I don't think I've ever asked you this question. Did you have a plan to stay after the Olympics?
No, not at all. I planned to come to do the Olympics and move on.
Really?
Yep. I was only on a 2-year visa, and the intention was to use it as a starting point. And once I was in the Northern Hemisphere, I'd just travel and take it wherever it left me. And then, I'd stayed for the Olympics in the winter, moved to Vancouver, thought I'd do one summer, and that would be it. And
now we're what, 15 years in?
12 years later.
What made you stay?
I found that I knew I loved hospitality, and I came into Vancouver market, and I think you were one of the, old guards. At that time, there was an old guard really driving the cocktail culture in Vancouver at the moment, and I was one of the younger ones. I was on a Jacob at the time, another fellow Aussie, and I just found, this is a really cool city. It's got a lot going on, and I could plant myself here and use it as a base to travel from, and there's a lot of similarities between Canada and Australia, which I'm sure you're familiar with, and I just found it a really good place to set up to work around.
I think 2010 was that year that was a year after I took over Clive's, and I've been here for 4 years, and when I landed, there was no cocktail culture.
No.
Like, there was here and there, like, in the out town and stuff like that, but nothing too crazy. 2010 is really when it started, like, gaining some legs.
Correct.
Post-Olympics, a bunch of Australians came in.
That's the only reason.
Yeah. and we sort of started seeing that international taste for cocktails sort of hit the market during the Olympics.
And we had Tales on Tour.
Yeah, and then Tales on Tour 2012.
Yeah, 2012 Tales on Tour, and I think it was just, I realized something really cool happening, and then, I think 2013 or 2012, when my first bar combo got to go to Sweden, I was like, I can live here and travel around the world.
Yeah. And it's hard when you're in Australia, like it's far away from everything.
Yeah, and I realized the goal was to travel, and the biggest goal is once you get out of Oz.
Yeah.
I could just go down to Seattle, you're 8 or 9 hours across the top and you're in Europe. So there was a lot of opportunity here.
Have you always been at the Fairmont?
Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So I was trying to think. I was thinking back, and I remember 2010. I remember 2012, and I remember seeing your bright young face running around in 2012 for Tales on Tour.
Weathered now.
Yeah. let's do a post and a pick when I first came to Canada. Now.
Yeah. Right. It's just, it was quite lucky. I was still living in Whistler, and my friend told me about this hotel that had just opened up. He's like, you should go down there and try it. So I got the bus down from Whistler, put my application in. I applied for event supervisor, funnily enough, because I used to run luxury banquets on the Great Barrier Reef. So I thought this is a perfect stepping stone for me. And then they changed my application to bartender. I had 3 interviews back to back, got the bus to Whistler, and then a week later I was in Vancouver.
Wow. And you spearheaded the bar program at Botanist.
Correct.
When did Botanist open now? The pandemic's made everything seem way...
I know. My sense of time is kind of thrown. We did this, I want to say it was 2016, 2017. Right. We've been open for about 6 or 7 years.
Wow.
Anyway, so for those that aren't familiar, Botanist is a restaurant and bar in the Pacific Rim, and the restaurant previously was not successful, and the rest of the hotel was. We had this luxury experience in our spas, in our room offerings, in the lounge. So they completely gutted the restaurant, and the hotel manager at the time was like, what would you put here if you could? If you could build a dream bar, what would you do? Because it's going to be gutted. It's not going to be gutted again for a long time. I'm like, okay. So I wrote down a list of like, I want to do a rotovap, centrifuge, I want to have blocks of ice, do this and this. And it just came back with a big tick.
Wow.
So I was like, whew. And like young kid, I'm like, now I have to make this work. And we had the budget of, I think one of the biggest things that I focus on now, it's cool to have centrifuge and rotovaps, but the ergonomics of the bar setup was more important. I learned more designing a bar custom than I did from trying to play with tools and the science aspect of it. Because I noticed now that you want bartenders to work for you for 10 years, and no one's as tall as you, no one's as tall as me. We all have different reach, our bodies move differently. It's not the healthiest industry. So like we were measuring elbow to wrist. We're doing stance, measuring step movements of how far it takes to get everything. Because like I worked with a bartender in the lounge who is late 40s, excellent bartender, but his body was breaking down. Like, how do I stop that? Right? So we got the forefront of having a very economic, streamlined bar. So I think that's...
Well, you've seen one of my bartenders during the finals.
Yeah.
4'10".
Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah, and I think with it becoming more and more of a career is, you used to have these big ice wells and they weren't actually designed for the health. And the amount of bars I've walked into where you see people trying to make drinks stretched out like that, but back, knees, hips, shoulder, everything. And you're on your feet for 12 hours a day. So I think that was... one of the coolest parts about designing Botanist. Sorry, I lost track of the question. I just went on a tangent.
That's a perfect tangent.
Yeah.
So 2014 rolled around.
Yeah.
We're only, 2 years into World Class being a part of Canada.
Yeah.
2013 was the first.
Correct.
You were 2014. Yes, you were the second.
Yep.
So, no, I know coming from Australia, like we sort of have those sort of big competitions. We have those sort of like really in-depth multi-challenge events and stuff like that. It was relatively new to Canada. What sort of drove you to do World Class, especially being here for a couple of years, sort of feeling it out? You were 2 years before Botanist was evolving. What made 2014 special? I'm naturally competitive. I mean, I like to play football and sports. And I said at the time, Jacob, who was a head bartender for myself, he was like, you should enter this. You just learn a lot. I'm like, cool, I want to. And then I just got that competitive nature of, I think, entering local comps, I came second 5 times in a row. I was like, okay. The bridesmaid, never the bride?
Yeah. I was like, I'm missing something here. What do I got to do? And I entered World Class, and it was the first year it came. And it didn't really hit the West Coast for some reason. Mm-hmm. I was only one of 5 people that entered from the West Coast, and I was the only person to represent the West Coast. It was all East Coast. So I went to it kind of alone. Came third, and that's where I met Jenna and Shane. Obviously, we were the top 3 then. And I just walked away going, I'm going to win that next year. And like for the whole next year, everything I did in terms of the bar, in terms of menu, my speed, how I prepped, it was all in preparation for the next year's competition.
Do you think more bartenders should, when it comes to big competitions like this, if it's something they really want to go for, it's not something that you should start preparing for? Sort of like the Olympics. You don't start preparing for the Olympics a month out before the thing. You start before you finish the last Olympics, you go back to training camp, you might have a little bit of break, and then you get straight into it, ready for the next Olympics 4 years later. Yeah, I mean, 100%. I mean, not every bartender, like Kate, I think was her first year entering, and she got through. Not everyone can do that. I mean, there's still talented people that didn't make it through. I don't know if I should say this, but Chris Enns, he came second 1 year. The next year he went to enter, and he didn't even make the regionals. Yeah, he was mentioning that.
Because we could tell in the recipes that it was careless. Like he just threw something in the last minute. And it was obviously anonymous, and then we got asked to go, we're not supposed to, but they said, can you go back through it, look at this recipe again? I'm like, yeah.
It's not special.
It's not good.
Yeah.
And Chris admitted, it's like, yeah, I just threw it in the night before. And we could tell, right? So it's something if you're not 100%, it's obvious in the seas. So you have to train, you have to prepare. And I mean, I was younger, so I had less experience. So I had to practice more than others. If you're a bit more seasoned, it might be like dusting off the cobwebs and like retraining yourself and reinvigorating yourself. But for me, it was like, I'd never thrown a cocktail before. I didn't know how some ingredients were made. I was like, well, if I get tested on this, I have to prepare for it. So that's what
Which makes you a better bartender regardless.
Correct.
So coming from 2014, like I think you've been fortunate enough, you've been here since like 2010, you've seen that whole spectrum of change of bartenders, and I look back and I'm a smidge older than you, but just a smidge. Seeing the changes from the bartenders that we worked with and the cocktails we were doing back in 2010, 2011, 2012, even back in Australia, which was getting notorious for good cocktail culture. 10-year anniversary of World Class, you've got to see a lot of different years. Are you always shocked and sort of in awe of how some of these youngsters are like, you always think you've seen everything, and then someone does something, you're just like, man.
Every year.
What the hell?
Yeah, I remember, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, I was like, I can't compete against these guys anymore. I'm lucky I'm a judge now. But I mean, yeah, if you went through it again, you'd be able to do it. But just the amount of talent and the amount of information they have to look, if they want to look, is all out there. Like you can see what other people are doing, you can watch previous year's winners, you can see their recipes, and then all of a sudden the next year it's elevated because this is what this guy won with, these are all the drinks he made. If I tweak a couple of these recipes. I know I'm on that level of drinks. How do I make it my own? How do I represent myself? So the information is there of what it takes. It's like entering a cooking contest, and you can use Gordon Ramsay's recipes and just change a couple of the herbs. I mean, you still have to make it authentically you when you present, because a lot of it's about hosting and how you manage people in the bar. So that still has to come through, but it's less cocktail making. Who is the best bartender?
I think it's something that a lot of big competitions, when bartenders go into it, I think sometimes they forget that, yes, you can have a great recipe, but if you're hospitality sort of things,
Totally.
you don't know how to talk to people, or you don't know how to control a room, you can lose points real quick, easy points, if you miss out on those sort of elements.
Totally, and just connecting with judges, connecting with people. And I think what you notice, a lot of high-end restaurants around the world, if they have guests coming in, they look at, have they been here before? They look at, is it an anniversary? Did they come here last year for an anniversary? Is this person allergic? All this information is we already do. So if you can find out information about the people you're with, their judges, and just a simple way to connect to them. A perfect example is the year I competed. Tim Phillips, who I'm not sure if you interviewed, he was one of the judges, and they took a skeet shooting the day before as like a warm-up, and Tim Phillips could not hit one at all to save his life, and so he missed all of the skeets, and he's like, "Oh, I'm from Australia. We don't have guns. We just punch shit." And I just laughed, so I picked up a skeet, and then at the end of the comp, I had to serve him a punch. So I put the skeet down as a coaster, and I was like, "I know you couldn't hit it the other day, so here it is right in for you with your punch." And he was just like, "Well done, you just paid attention." And it was like a cheeky nod.
It's just one little tweak that you had planned, but you just made it work.
I just had it in my pocket just in case, and it was just like the nod to observing your guests or your clients and how to make their day better by just paying attention.
That's awesome. Well, thanks for your time, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And good luck with the gala tonight.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks for listening, Pose Shifters. I hope you enjoyed that episode. I really enjoy sitting down with friends and peers and just chatting about the industry and getting down to the nuts and bolts of what's really going on out there. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, everything on all the platforms. Just hit it up and I'll do my best to answer any queries or questions you have. I'll see you next week, guys. Bye.